On Fox News, Vice President Mike Pence made an argument that we shouldn't remove Confederate statues because we need to preserve history. If we're unwilling to remember history, we're doomed to repeat it. The thing about that argument is I 100% believe it. It is important to remember history. The problem, though, is that keeping Confederate statues doesn't actually follow from that premise. Let's watch to find out. In history, I want to look at two possible examples as a way to illustrate this point. The difference that I want to make is the difference between a memorial and a monument. A monument celebrates something, and a memorial is remembering something. Now, that distinction is arbitrary, and different people use those words differently, but for the purposes of this video right now, that's the distinction that we're going to use. And the key distinction that I want to make is that a monument, as opposed to a memorial, functions to celebrate something. If you don't believe me, let's look at this example. Suppose Vice President Mike Pence makes a poor decision and cheats on his wife. It would be absurd for all of us to expect Mike Pence's wife, given what we know about her personality, to request that he put up a small statue of himself or the woman that he cheated with on the living room mantle. We would think that that was absurd to say, oh, I made a mistake, and I therefore need a monument to the mistake. Maybe he could keep a ring or some kind of token. Maybe it would be reasonable for him to keep around something that he would remember. But to put it on the mantelpiece for everyone to see, that's a celebration, not a remembrance. And that's a crucial distinction that people don't seem to get. By putting a general on a Confederate general on a monument, on a pedestal, it functions as a cultural way of celebrating something. That's different from remembering. And if you still don't see the difference between those two things, I want to think of a thought experiment. There are memorials that exist in the form of Holocaust museums. Imagine you went to a Holocaust museum and you got to the part of the museum where there were pictures of faces of the victims. And instead of seeing 100% pictures of the faces of victims, it was half and half. On the right half, you had a whole bunch of pictures of victims of the Holocaust. And then on the left half, you had a whole bunch of pictures of soldiers and generals and propagandists who helped create the Holocaust. If you were sitting in that memorial and you were looking at the faces, there would be something profoundly inappropriate about looking at the faces of the victims next to the people that had killed them. But the problem is, we don't even have 50-50. We don't even have a 50% perpetrators and 50% victims. We have almost 100% statues of people who perpetrated the Civil War. People who celebrated slavery and made it a huge component of what they thought was important. It's 100%. So if you really believe that we should remember history, we don't need to destroy those monuments. We need to put them in memorials. We need to put them inside museums. That's the appropriate move. And if you think that we should be remembering history, I say yes, go for it. But we shouldn't be remembering it in a way that accidentally celebrates it.